President Andrzej Duda has no doubt who was behind the attempt to destabilize Poland's eastern border, which is also the border of the European Union and NATO. Was what happened on the Polish-Belarusian border a prelude to the attack on Ukraine? We unequivocally believe that it was. After all, we were dealing with the involvement, practically open, of Belarusian services. This served as a test of whether we would be motivated to defend a border, whether this defense would be effective. In the context of a hybrid attack on our border by Belarus, I always respond to such arguments like this. When I fought to win the presidential election, no one promised me that it would be easy. That's why I accept reality as it is and try my best to do my job. I believe that this was an operation of the Lukashenko regime with the support of Russia. About this, I am convinced, and not only me, but probably all the people responsible for Poland's security who meet at meetings of the National Security Bureau, and we do not generally have any doubts in this group about what the operation was, who was behind it, and who controlled it. In 2020, there were 130 attempts to illegally cross the Polish-Belarusian border. By contrast, in 2021, there were more than 40,000. From the very beginning of this crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border, we have said clearly and openly, we are dealing with a scenario written by Minsk and Moscow. We are dealing with a completely artificial migration route created for state needs. Other countries bordering Belarus, such as Lithuania, Latvia and Ukraine, began to face similar situations. Illegal migrants mostly came from Syria, Afghanistan and Iran. There were even individuals from the African continent. They arrived in Belarus via special flights to Minsk. Let's remember that this was designed, this was coordinated, most likely in Belarusian-Russian relations, because the acquisition of these people in certain regions was beyond the capabilities and competence of Belarusian intelligence alone. It must have been coordinated with the Russians to some extent. Human tragedy often occurred at the border. Although the migrants were mostly men in their prime, Belarusian secret services also took advantage of women and children. For this reason, parts of the Polish media and the opposition insisted on opening the borders. They referred to our officers who defended the Polish border, officers of the border guard, WOT, services, police, in such a shameful way. I have long lost any illusions about decency on the part of the Polish opposition. What happened on our eastern border was thickly sown, with threads sown by Putin and Lukashenko. The destabilization of the situation in Poland would have significantly hampered the ability to provide the humanitarian and military aid given to Ukraine. Just a few months later, Russia launched an armed invasion. We have been warning since the middle of 2021, or at least since the autumn, that Operation Sluice is just a preparation for a big war, which Russia is starting in Ukraine, and it is unknown where it will end up. But indeed, as the president says, Poland was attacked first. The total length of the Polish border with Belarus is 418 kilometers. It is protected by 19 border guard posts. Part of the border runs along rivers, but the 187-kilometer-long land section is the most vulnerable. Therefore, the government decided to build a permanent barrier on the border. It was completed last June, and a few months later, electronic detection systems were installed.